The following episode of Dad vs. Daughter was made possible by a contribution from Asmodee. Yamatai from Days of Wonder is a game for 2 to 4 players. It takes about 45 minutes to an hour to play. On our turn, we're going to be drafting tiles that will give us certain boats. We're going to be placing those boats on the board, and we're going to be using those to build certain buildings. We're also going to be able to collect culture tokens, which will allow us to recruit specialists. Those are going to give us some special abilities as well. So let's take a look and see what Dad's gaming group thinks, as Yamatai is our game of the week. Each player will have their own player board. They'll start with 10 money, and then the player board gives them a guide as to what they can do on each turn. So the first thing that they do is they draft one of the tiles, and I'll talk about that in a minute. Second, they can either buy or sell boats based on the cost shown below. So they could buy a green boat, which is a jade, or they could sell it and get 1 money. The only boat that you can't buy or sell unless you have one of the specialist abilities is the gold boat. And you can only do this action once on your turn. The third thing that you can do is you can place boats on the board around an island. You have the option of either building or collecting culture tokens, one or the other. And then if you build, depending on how you build, you may get victory points. So in this case, when you build next to one of the palaces, you are going to get 1 victory point. If you build on top of a mountain, you're going to get a victory point. And if you build next to one of your own houses, you're going to get 1 gold for each one of the houses in that set. The fourth part shows how many boats that you can keep in your harbor. To begin with, you can only keep 1, and at the end of the game, if you have 2 or more, or for every 2, you're going to lose a victory point. Finally, the last thing that you can do on your turn is you can turn culture tokens in to recruit a specialist, either 2 of the same or 3 different ones. After the map has been set up, player order is going to be randomly determined for the first turn. So just put some meeples out here on spaces 1 through 4. So then the first player is going to go. They're going to choose which of these face-up tiles that they want. So let's just say that I decide I want this tile. So this tile will show that I can get a gold boat, and then I can also place one of the sacred tokens on an empty island. Now this action happens immediately, so the first thing I'll do is I'll go ahead and I will grab that boat. So I've got a gold boat here, and then I can take one of these sacred tokens and I can place them on, or place it on one of the empty islands. So let's just say I'm going to place it right there. So now that I've got my gold boat, I go on to the next phase, and I can either buy a boat or sell a boat. I can't sell the gold boat, so let's just say that I pay 1 money and I buy a jade boat. Now, I have to follow some placement rules. Now, to begin the game, you'll notice on the left side of the board here, we have 5 boats with arrows. So I can place 1 or all of my boats on one of those starting spaces. And let's just say that I decided that I did not want to place my gold boat. I want to keep that for later. So since I've placed this, I cannot build any of the buildings because there's nothing that takes just 1 jade boat. But what I can do is I can take this 1 culture token, and I'll use that later. So since I didn't want to place my gold boat, I'm going to place it on my player board on the harbor section. Now, since I only have 1 culture token, I can't really do anything with that, so my turn's over. Now, the next player is going to go, and they're going to choose a boat. So let's just say that this guy chooses the jade boat here. And notice that there is no other special actions on here. But next turn, they're going to go first. So he takes that boat, and he can place it anywhere he wants to. However, in order to place it in the same or adjacent spot next to a boat that's already placed, it has to be the same kind. So this player could actually place this jade boat there. There are no buildings that require only 2 jade boats, so he can take this culture token. Now let's say the next player goes and they decide that they want to take this number 10. So you'll notice as the numbers increase, the abilities are probably the best. So in this case, you're going to get a red boat, a brown boat, and a boat color of your choice. But you're going to go last because there are only 10 spots in the player track. So let's just say that this person had, they took the red, they took the brown, and let's say they took the green. So we've got these 3 boats to place. So let's say this player decides to place this jade boat here. He's following the placement rules because you have to place the same type next to an adjacent. And let's just go ahead and we'll just place these other boats like this. Now, since we have 3 jade boats around this island and this island is empty, I can look at the available buildings here, and I can actually build this building. So because it takes 3 jades. Now what that's going to do is it's going to give me $2 instead of 1 for every other adjacent building that we have next to that. Now since this is the first turn, this will not give us any money, but it will be worth 1 victory point at the end of the game. So since that was the gray player, they can place one of their gray buildings on the map there, and hopefully they'll be able to put other gray buildings next to it to score or to get more money. Now, if he had placed and was able to build on top of the mountain, he would have gotten 1 of the victory points, which are these little fan tokens here. So after everyone has taken their turns, we go ahead and we set up for the next round. Now, there's going to be at least 1 tile that was not drafted, so that's going to move down. And then all these other tiles that were face down, they're going to move down into the open spots. This last one won't be revealed, but these 4 here will be. We'll flip those over. And then we will also remember our player order based off of the numbers on the tiles that we took last turn. So let's see, I'm trying to remember what I had. Blue was on 5, and I think the purple was on 1. The gray was on 10, and the orange was on 3. So now you can see that we have our player order for the next turn. The 4 tiles that we used will then be shuffled up, and they will be placed on the board face down, and they'll come into play during the next turn. Also, since we built a building, we have to have 5 in our row, so we'll flip the top one, and now we are back to 5. We would also look at the top here and see if any of our specialists were taken. None were in that first turn, so what we will do is we will actually place money on each of the tiles that remains. So we'll place 1 of the value 2 money on each one of those specialists, kind of making it a little bit more lucrative for someone to take. Now there are 2 special buildings that we can build. They are worth higher victory points at the end of the game, but they're usually harder to build. So like this one for the Tory, you actually have to have 1 of each boat around an island in order to build it. For the palace, you have to have 2 jade, but you also have to have 2 gold. Now those buildings are actually a lot bigger than the normal buildings. So there is the Tory, and there is the palace. Now these do not follow the standard building scoring as far as, you know, if you place one of yours next to another building. Let me show you how that works. So in this example, let's say that I built this Tory. Now don't worry that the boats on the board don't match that. So I'm going to take this Tory and I will place it right here on this empty island. Now, since it doesn't follow the standard building rules, I don't get any points because I didn't build one of my buildings next to it. Now, on a future turn, let's say that this island was vacant and someone, say the blue player here, built their house on that island. They're going to get 1 prestige point right there for building adjacent to the Tory or a palace. Now let's look at some of the specialist tiles. Now, I was just telling you that by building that Tory next to a building doesn't give us anything special. Now, if we happen to have this specialist here, you'll notice that it basically says that the special buildings equal a regular building. So in this example here, we would actually count this as 2 of our own buildings, and we would get an extra coin for that. Also, looking at the specialist card here, this card at the end of the game, or the specialist at the end of the game, is going to be worth 2 victory points. Now, there's a whole stack of those, and they offer different things. This one is only worth 1 victory point, but you can trade a culture token in for a gold boat. Here you can actually get rid of a gold boat and get 2 boats of your choice. Here you can sell a black boat for 6 money or a red boat for 7, when normally the black boats are only worth 3 and the red boats are only worth 4. And you have a bunch of other different types here. This one here gives you 2 extra harbor spaces. You'll notice there's all different kinds. This lets you build or place ships on the edges of the board. This one strictly gives you 4 victory points, and so on. So there are a lot of neat specialist tiles that are going to come out. There are several ways the game can end. So if a player places their last standard building, then you're going to finish that current round, and then you're going to score the game. If there is no boat of one color remaining, so say if we use all of the red boats, then at the end of the round we're going to look, and if there are none left, that will cause the end of the game trigger. If you can't replenish the specialist tract during the preparation for the next round, or you can't replenish the building row during the prep for the next round. The way the scoring works is you're going to count up prestige points. So you're going to get 1 prestige point for every 5 coins, 1 for every prestige token, that's the fan tokens. You're going to get prestige points for each constructed building. So like I said, if we were able to construct this, we're going to get 5 prestige points for that. We're going to get whatever the prestige points are on our specialty board. So in this case, that would be worth 2. We're going to lose 1 for each reserve building that was not built, because during the game, sometime we can see a building here, and let's just say that I had this building and I wanted to make sure that I was the one who built it. If I took one of the tiles that allows me to do that, in fact, it's this tile right here, I can take this tile and I can put it on my player board, but if I don't complete it by the end of the game, I'm going to lose a point. And then I'm also going to lose 1 point for every 2 unused boats on my player mat. I know I mentioned this in our unboxing of Yamatai, but real quick, I want to kind of go over the component quality. Now, as a Days of Wonder game, you're going to expect high quality of components, and I don't think you're going to be disappointed here. The boats that we have, they're nice wooden boats, nice cutout shape. The cardboard stock on all of the tiles is nice and thick. They are very sturdy. The artwork on the tiles and basically all throughout the game is just really cool. Really like the artwork a lot. The only complaint that I had was the money. And I know this is more realistic money to have that hole in the middle, but I had to punch each one of those out. And there's a lot of money in this game. So that really was my only downside to it. The only other thing that's really kind of a negative is, and this is another Days of Wonder thing, is the player boards are just really wobbly and thin. It would be nice if they had, a thicker stock on these, but like I said, the artwork again is gorgeous on here. Really like that, but just a little flimsy on the player boards. So in a nutshell, that is how you play Yamatai. Now, let's see what Dad's gaming buddies think of the game.
Hi, I'm Chris. I'm a friend of Tim the Dad's. I'm part of his regular gaming group, and he asked me to give a quick segment on my thoughts on Yamatai. So first, component-wise, it's a Days of Wonder game, so it's pretty much what you'd expect from Days of Wonder. It's got good artwork, it's got good components, nice wooden ships, good color. The artwork is fantastic, especially the specialist cards with the Eastern theme to everything. The artwork on those cards is amazing. And when you have a finished game and you look at the board, all of the colors and everything put together just make for a beautiful looking game. Draws interest from the crowds as they're walking by. So I like that aspect of the game. I've played it at player counts 2, 3, and 4. My first play was at 2 players, and I took more of a strategic approach when I played it that way. And when you're trading turns in a two-player game, you each get 2 turns per segment. And so when you line those up, occasionally you'll basically pass back and forth 4 turns at a time. And when you look strategically and you're playing 4 turns and trying to decide what the other player is going to do for their next 4 turns, it can get a little brain burny. It probably lingered a little bit too long in that first play. But then we came back and played at the same 2 players the second time. I took more of a tactical approach the second time. I really enjoyed it a lot more that second play. I think, though, the sweet spot player count wise is probably 3 for this game. It does have a lot of downtime. I think 3 is where it minimizes that downtime as much as possible. But even at 3, you're still going to have downtime. If you're the first person in the first turn and the last person in the second turn, you're going to wait through effectively 4 turns before you get a turn for another action. So that downtime can kind of push the game a little bit. The bottom line, I think there are probably too few decisions to be made. In each turn, you are either going to take specialists or you're going to place a house, a building. And when it comes down to those are my 2 choices, and I have a few spots where I can do one or the other, I think it's just a little bit too light of a game. So between the downtime and the lack of decisions to be made, probably not my favorite game, but if it's set up and people are anxious and want to play, then I certainly wouldn't turn down a play of it, but not something that I would ask for. Thanks.
Aaron Hosine here from Yellow Maple Gaming, here today to talk about Yamatai. Yamatai is a fun action selection and worker placement game with some really good twists. I enjoyed playing this game because it had a lot of good player interaction. I like the fact that anyone can use the various boats. There was we definitely saw some kind of take that or screw you elements to the game as we went through it. Lots of things that I had a hard time predicting too. As we saw different moves that people made. I think with more plays you might be able to see some different things coming. But certainly in the first couple plays there was some things that I did not see coming. Lots of good strategic choices in there. I'm always a sucker for a good worker placement game, and this is definitely one I would be adding to my collection.
Hi everybody, this is Dwight from Dwiggy's Demos, and I'm here with a few of my friends playing Yamatai, and we wanted to give you our group review for Dad versus Daughters channel. So I'll give you my review first. It's a very interesting game. It reminds me a lot of Five Tribes, lots of different decisions. It tends to slow down at times because there are so many decisions and so many different things to do. But I find it interesting. I like it. It's colorful. The art is great. My friends have different opinions. Let's see what they have to say. Michael, what do you think?
First? Okay. The general idea of it's pretty good. The one thing that is a little bit off for me is a game that for me feels like I want to build an engine, but it's not an engine building game. The only thing that's even similar to that is your chain that you're building of buildings you put down. So that's something you're kind of building on and trying to plan for. But really everything else is just kind of just the luck of whatever comes out here and then making like a tactical decision. And that can be good sometimes. There's games where tactics are great. But something about it feels like it should be more strategic than tactical, and it ends up being a more tactical game, and that's kind of a disconnect for me. Also a lot of downtime. I feel like not as much to keep me like really engaged when it's not my turn. That's sort of a downside.
Adam's not playing right now. The downtime is ridiculous for him.
Yeah,
It's true. Yeah. Even when I'm encouraged by other people's plays and I'm interested in what they're going to do with things and what possibilities they have in front of them, some of it's just a little too open, a little too there's a little too much uncertainty as to what move you could make might benefit you the most in the end, that it's kind of like just throw your stuff on the board sometimes. And
Chris, what do you think?
I don't know. It seems to be growing on me after a little bit of play time here. I agree with the downtime, and it's a little bit analysis paralysis prone, just like Five Tribes can be at times. I think it's going to take a couple plays for me to get a better opinion of it. the randomness of the buildings coming out, and the set of random elements of where the culture tokens are, which buildings come out, which of the turn order tokens you have available to choose from on any particular turn, and the allies that help you score victory points and do different things. I think it might be a little too random with all of the extra random things, and then the only set thing that you can really do is where you place your ships, but even that you're depending on your opponents to build the appropriate chain for something you're trying to do.
Aaron, do you have any thoughts?
Sure. I mean, I already said a little bit that's going to be included in this, but I like this game. It does lend itself to analysis paralysis, but I like the game. I think you can try to choose a strategy, but in the end, you're going to have to be flexible, depending on what comes out. I like it because you see a different set of things that you can choose from each time, one of these, and that has several different things that are happening. It's like, it's your priority for the next turn. It's what you're going to do this time. And so that's one of the reasons why you tend to go into analysis process. But I like this game. I think it's fun, but the downtime can be a killer.
All right, speaking of downtime, let's get back to the game. Thanks, everybody. Wave. Bye.
Bye.
Tim, where's my money?
All right, thanks, guys. So now Dad's thoughts. I've played this several times. I've played it as a 2-player game, a 3-player game, and a 4-player game. The 2-player game, the difference on that is you actually take 2 turns per round. Each player gets 2 turns. I have found that a lot of times I end up spending my first turn to set up kind of a power move on my second turn. And that really changes kind of how you look at the game. The very first time I played it, it was a 2-player game, and that kind of fried my brain because I was always looking ahead for that next turn. In the 3 and the 4-player game, you really can't do that because the game board is going to change, so you can't really plan too much ahead because somebody might, place boats where you wanted to do that. They might build where you wanted. They might take the prestige tokens that you wanted. So it's more, in a 2-player game, it's more strategic. In a 3 and 4-player game, I think it's more tactical. But I really like it. I've mentioned before on the video cast, Dad, Dave, and the Elephant. I'd only played it a few times then, but I liked it. Now that I've played it more times, I think I actually like it more. And I know my compadres, they were kind of, the game really didn't do anything special for them. But this is my kind of game, and I've really enjoyed it. Really looking forward to what Megan thinks. I think she's going to like it, but we'll find that out sometime in the future when Megan is able to play this. So that is Yamatai, and we will catch you guys next time. If you would like to support us, you can visit patreon.com/dadvdaughter.
Like and follow us on Facebook to stay current on our show schedule, sneak peeks at future shows, and to interact with us.